That is stunning news. I'm so glad that you're able there to experience it in person. Now, can you tell us a little
Wow.
bit about what's next to retrieve
This
the crew
is
for the recovery personnel on board?
amazing. The
Yeah, Kate. So coming
astronauts
up
are
next,
coming
Dragon will be hoisted into the
back.
on-deck translation system, or the
Wow.
nest, at the aft end of the ship,
I hope
and then will be
everyone can
translated
see
pretty
this when they
quickly
come
towards that egress
in.
platform. We'll perform
I
another
am so
series of
amazed.
safety checks as final precautionary measures just to
Let
make
me
sure
know
there
if you
are no
guys can hear
hypoxic vapors
this
present before opening that side hatch. And then once
because
that side hatch
it
of the
is very
spacecraft is
low, so
open, the
I'm
crew
not
will be
sure if you
assisted
can
out of
hear
the
this or
capsule one by
not.
one from NASA and SpaceX. Freedom, SpaceX, contract. Thanks, Nick. I've got you loud and clear as well. We have completed our forward link transition.
And Jaden, if you did just want to go ahead and let us know what is next to retrieve the crew, we are continuing to get some great views on our screen, but I know you have an even better view yourself.
Oh, yeah, Sandra, this view is absolutely unbeatable. So just to kind of finish off what I was saying is once that side hatch of the spacecraft is open, that crew will be assisted out of the capsule one by one from NASA and SpaceX medical personnel, where they will then head to the med bay. And after those medical checks, they will get on that first helicopter out and arrive at the airport, where they will then board a NASA plane and then head back to Houston, Texas at the Johnson Space Center to begin their post-flight period. And we're eager to see the Crew 9 astronauts back on Earth, and we'll keep you updated on every moment of this process. With that, I'll toss it back over to you guys at Hawthorne.
Thank you so much. That was Jaden Jennings, NASA Public Affairs Officer, who watched Freedom splash down firsthand from the recovery vessel. Megan, thanks so much, Jaden. So we are continuing to get these great views on our screen here of Freedom. As we mentioned, it splashed down at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. The recovery personnel are continuing to step through procedures to hoist Dragon onto the recovery vessel Megan there, which is now coming into view. You can see just how close Megan is at this point, and that's that helicopter pad that Jaden was just discussing, where the crew will fly off of onto the coast of Florida, and then eventually they'll fly.
Just underneath that helicopter pad is that translation deck.
Wow.
Where we will see the nest once it is loaded up with the Dragon spacecraft on board. The nest will be translated to the forward and recovery
Did I miss
vessel,
them
and that
land?
is where our Crew 9 team members will egress from the Dragon spacecraft. Now, here on your screen, we can see dolphins, actually, who want to come and play with Dragon. Now, one of the fast boats there in place, working to assist the recovery team member. It's incredible. I just love these views. We really see them even better in daytime, but just seeing the recovery team work in tandem to step through each step, to step through each operation. Obviously they're getting quick assists from the honorary part of the recovery team, those dolphins in the water there. Now the recovery team member that is crawling around the Dragon spacecraft. Earlier we saw a view where it was like a spider monkey pose. We can see that individual now standing in the bucket where the main parachutes were stored while Dragon was on orbit. Obviously, those main parachutes were utilized for splashdown today. They were deployed and cut from the Dragon capsule, and one of the other fast boats of the recovery team working to pull those out of the water. Now, the recovery team member that is working on top of the Dragon capsule. Earlier, we saw that person performing safety checks. Now we can see some harnessing being placed around the capsule. This harnessing is what will be used to lift the Dragon capsule out of the water and onto the recovery vessel. Wow, we got a cute little pod of dolphins. It wasn't just one or two.
I mean, that water just looks beautiful. We had ideal splashdown parameters today. Obviously, wave height, ne'er a concern. The weather is beautiful, as Jaden mentioned, in the 60s, sunny. Looking forward to seeing Crew 9 exit the capsule here shortly once they get hoisted onto the recovery vessel Megan.
Oh, the
We can
crew
see
is
recovery
in that
vessel
capsule?
slowly but surely closing the distance
Wow.
between. Oh, dolphin cam back again. We can see that the Dragon
The crew
capsule
is in that
and
capsule?
the recovery vessel, that distance is closing. Again, this is just one more step as we continue to work recovery operations for Dragon Freedom, and we anticipate the lift of the Dragon capsule to occur here in just a few minutes. Now, once all of the rigging is on the capsule and it's hooked up to the recovery vessel, we will see the hydraulic arm, which is that kind of like bridge-like structure there at the aft end of the recovery vessel. We'll see that articulate backwards, and that's a good sign that we're getting even closer to pulling the capsule out of the water. It will then move forward, and the capsule will be placed inside of what you can see there is basically a basket. We call it the nest, Dragon nest, where that's where the capsule will be placed in order for it to be translated to the forward end of the vessel and for the astronauts to egress.
And before that does take place, we'll have potentially views
That's
of
crazy.
the rigger go ahead and jump off
This
of the
is
spacecraft
so amazing.
there.
That
This is
typically occurs
history.
when the spacecraft is a little bit closer to the recovery vessel, and we usually get a really good view of that particular operation from one of the onboard cameras from the recovery vessel. That is an operation that I have a lot of respect and admiration for, that individual that does that.
So again, Dragon continuing to get closer and closer to the recovery vessel Megan. You see some of those ropes now coming into view as well. If you are just joining us, Crew 9 splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time with NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov. They're now working through procedures to hoist this spacecraft up onto the recovery vessel Megan.
We just saw that hydraulic arm get lowered into the lifting position. That arm will be the mechanism that is utilized to lift Dragon up and out of the water and into the nest located there at the aft end of the recovery vessel.
And the recovery vessel being used today is, as we mentioned multiple times, is named Megan, but that's actually after NASA astronaut Megan McArthur, who flew on Crew 2 a couple of years ago.
Megan McArthur. Women's National History Month, Megan McArthur.
We're getting some views now from actually
No, that's right.
inside the boat.
Yeah, you're exactly right. This view is straight down the recovery vessel. That platform that was closest to the camera, that is the egress platform.
Freedom. Rigging is almost complete. Approximately 5 minutes until capsule lift.
Uh-oh.
Great news there from SpaceX 4. So about 5 minutes left until we see Dragon Freedom get lifted out of the water. That hydraulic arm, as I said before, is the mechanism that will lift it. It's quite swift, actually, the whole process of getting the spacecraft.
Brace for capsule lift.
Uh-oh.
There it goes, Dragon Freedom being lifted out of the water and onto our recovery vessel, Megan.
OMG. What?
So once securely on,
Welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are completing final checks and stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Dragon recovered on recovery vessel.
Great news there, letting us know that
Right.
Dragon Freedom has been successfully recovered from the water's surface. If you've just joined us, we had an on-time splashdown at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, and we can now see that the water recovery operations
So I missed the
are
splash then.
continuing to progress. The nest where the Dragon spacecraft is located is going to get moved forward. This will happen after one of the recovery crew members does some checks, and we'll also see some hosing. Obviously, the spacecraft splashed down in salt water. Salt water is corrosive, and we want to try and rinse out as much of the salt water as possible to reduce that corrosion on the metallic structures. So we can see some guidance there being provided, really steering the spacecraft properly into the Dragon's nest.
and it's been 30 minutes since Dragon splashed down, and as you can see there, the spacecraft is already on board the recovery vessel Megan. Things continuing to move very smoothly today throughout the entire operations from the deorbit burn up until this point as well.
And Freedom, it looks like the positioning wasn't quite right, so they are working on repositioning the capsule in the nest now.
Okay, copy that. Thanks.
And with that, the team is just going to adjust the Dragon spacecraft a bit so that it's in the right position ahead of translating up a little bit closer ahead of the side hatch. So the team is now going to step through the procedures to ensure that that takes place.
While Dragon does fly itself autonomously, it clearly is unable to park itself autonomously. We want to make sure that the Dragon capsule is properly seated there in that nest. Once Dragon is fully seated in the nest, we'll probably see a bunch of that salt water come out from the bucket there located underneath the side hatch.
Oh.
See some salt water splash out. As I mentioned before, one of the recovery team members will begin hosing down the exterior of the spacecraft.
So you are continuing to get some great live views on your screen of Crew 9, which includes NASA astronauts Nick Hague, Sunny Williams, Butch Wilmore, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov, who splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon.
Man, I
Now
missed
working
that.
to get that
Wow.
spacecraft situated in the nest. Just making some final adjustments and tweaks to ensure that it's nice and secure.
Once the spacecraft is seated and secured and oriented correctly in the nest, Dragon will be moved into the hangar located underneath that helipad that we saw earlier from the aerial views during recovery.
All right, Freedom, looks like you are settled into the nest now. Team is working through hypergol sweeps.
Copy.
Call out there telling us that the recovery team is doing the second round of those hypergolic sweeps. This helps ensure that everyone, all the recovery team members that are located basically right where this camera is located on, towards the forward end of the recovery vessel, that they will all be safe once the spacecraft translated forward. So we're just doing some additional steps to make sure that the hypergolic propellant that is utilized for maneuvering the Dragon capsule while on orbit, making sure that none of those vapors are still present on the exterior of the capsule.
That's right. And there are a variety of individuals on board the boat that help with recovery operations. Not only do we have the recovery personnel that you see here, but we also have a doctor that will check out the crew members as standard procedure. As with any spacecraft that is returning from space, we always perform a medical check with the crew. So you will see the crew come out of the capsule and be placed on stretchers, just like with the Soyuz landing and with all of our Dragon splashdowns. That is the nominal procedure.
Dragon splashdown.
We'll stand by to see Dragon Freedom translate or scooch up a little bit closer to the camera angle that we're seeing right here. And then teams will step through procedures to get that side hatch opened. You see it right in the dead center of your screen there. It's kind of that rectangular shape. It has not been opened since since Crew 9, which include Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbanov, launched back in September from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. So that will be the very first time that hatch is opened. Once docked to the International Space Station, crew enter through the top hatch, which was where the nose cone is now closed. That's the hatch that they actually utilize to go ahead and get inside the International Space Station.
Wow. That's crazy.
So as we get a little closer to that hatch opening procedure, you might start to see more individuals come into frame for some of that support. The ship has a maximum capacity of a little over 40 people on board, and it takes a variety of different roles, as we've discussed, to support. Also on board is the chief of the astronaut office for NASA, that's Joe Acaba.
Now, while we are standing by for translation of the Dragon spacecraft to the platform there, the recovery platform that we see in the foreground, it is important to note that Nick, Sonny, Butch, and Alexander will be getting assistance from the recovery teams while exiting the spacecraft. This is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members. As you could imagine, returning to a gravity environment can wreak havoc on our vestibular system, which is responsible for maintaining balance and motion. Of course, safety is our number one priority with this operation, so we'll see the crew members helped out of the spacecraft one by one, and they will be assisted the few feet to the medical quarters aboard the boat.
And on board Dragon are three veterans space flyers. That includes Nick Hague, the commander, as well as Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams. Alexander Gorbanov is completing his very first space flight on this mission, and he completed 171 days in space along with Nick Hague.
For those of you that have just recently joined us, well, I would encourage you to hit that rewind button and go back a few minutes. It was a beautiful splashdown of
I may have to do that
with the Crew 9 cohort on board. They had an on-time splashdown at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time, 2:57 p.m. Pacific.
I'm going to
time.
go back
We can see that the spacecraft
to see if I can
Freedom
see that.
translation is in progress.
Let me see. What is this?
located. We can see those fast
Freedom,
boats.
SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside.
Okay, we're almost there, almost there. Let me see. Oh my God, that's amazing! Sorry about right here.
Once again, the capsules are going about 350 miles per hour when the drones are deployed. Those drogue parachutes that we manufacture here in-house are going to slow the spacecraft down to 190 miles per hour. And that is when we will see the main parachutes deploy, and that occurs about 6,000 feet above the ocean's surface.
And we are expecting drogue deployment at 2:53 p.m. Pacific, so we should see it any second
Oh
now.
my
And we're
gosh.
getting a great view of Crew 9 inside Dragon Freedom as it returns.
Whoa!
We are awaiting the drogue deploys.
Oh my gosh! I am so excited. Sorry, guys.
And
Whoa, there's the
on your
parachutes.
screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
Woo!
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
The crowd here very excited as Dragon Freedom continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
That is crazy.
Next up, we'll stand by for the main deployment of the parachutes. The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. As we mentioned, Freedom will be traveling 16 miles per hour when it splashes down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida, here at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon. And there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
Oh my goodness.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful, healthy mains.
This is
Now awaiting
insane.
visuals of splashdown.
Next Freedom. 1,000.
We'll start to hear Commander Nick Hague.
Copy 1,000.
As we heard right there, Commander Nick Hague will be calling out the altitude of the Dragon capsule from here on out. Landing in water is simpler and provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. You can see those parachutes continuing.
You have got to be
slow the Dragon
one
capsule down.
brave person to do this.
And if you're just joining us, you're looking at
800 meters.
a live view of Crew 9, just minutes away from
Crew
splashing
9.
down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida. Splash down 2 minutes from now at 2:57 p.m. Pacific. We do have 4 healthy mains really doing the job there.
Oh my gosh,
Just
look at them up
breathtaking
there.
Views of a calm, glass-like ocean off the coast of
Wow.
Tallahassee, Florida. Crew 9 just minutes away from splashing down.
This is really such an incredible shot.
Yes, it is. This is a good shot.
That
Copy.
was
Oh my gosh, look at
that was a live view from our recovery vessel. Megan, which is
I am
stationed a
so
couple miles
proud
away
of you
from the
guys.
splashdown site.
that. Man, you got
We can
y'all
see the
brave.
crew there
Y'all
using
brave.
Their restraints as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago, so their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
This is a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9. It's incredible to think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour and
Wow.
now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200.
Copy 200 meters. Brace for splashdown.
As you can see there on your screen, continuing to monitor progress of the Dragon spacecraft. And we're going to stand by for splashdown located in the Gulf
Oh my
of
goodness,
America,
it's almost there. It's
off
almost
the
there.
coast of Tallahassee,
It's
Florida.
almost there. It's almost there. Woo!
And splashdown.
Boom!
Back on Earth.
Oh my. Woo!
And SpaceX.
Oh, that was amazing.
Good main release.
Happy splashdown.
Unbelievable.
Nick, Alex, Cliff,
Crew 9
on behalf of
returns.
SpaceX, welcome home.
Wow. Wow. That was amazing. Okay, I'm going to move it forward to see.
An amazing, what a ride.
Wow.
The capsule full.
I am just amazed at this. Okay, I'm going to move it forward back to where we were. Is this where we were?
That is study news. I'm
No,
so
because
glad that you're able there
This
to
is them still
experience
out
it
there.
in
So we
person.
were on the
Now, can you
part
tell
where
us a
they
bit
are actually on the boat. Okay, but right here.
maneuvering the Dragon capsule while on orbit, making sure that none of those vapors are.
And then we might be able to get the chance to see a couple of views inside of the Dragon and see the crew.
Let me
following
back
their
it up.
shuttle.
Let me back it up just a little bit, about right there. About right
This
there.
mission,
'Cause
and he completed
okay.
171 days in space along with Nick Hague.
wow.
For those of you that have just recently joined us, well, I would encourage you to hit that rewind button.
We
because
did.
in a few minutes. It was a beautiful.
We did.
splashdown
It was
of,
awesome.
Dragon Freedom with the Crew 9.
So this is
cohort
right
on
where
board.
left off.
They had an on-time splashdown at 5:57 p.m. Eastern Time,
They're cleaning it
2:57
off.
p.m. Pacific Time. We can see that the spacecraft.
Freedom translation is in progress.
We can
This is
see that
amazing.
spacecraft was successfully recovered from the ocean surface
Whoa.
and is now being washed with fresh water, as obviously they splash down in salt water. So we're trying to rinse off as much of that salt water as possible.
Okay.
And we can see the spacecraft continuing to move closer to that recovery deck.
Freedom, the crew is working on side hatch opening now. Expect hatch open in about 2 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, copy that. And Kara just wanted to say that
I know they are like, get me out of here.
awesome job. Both uphill and downhill. Just really, really impressed. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. It's been an honor.
This is a pretty exciting moment coming up. We are working to open the side hatch. One thing that may not be obvious from, just looking at the spacecraft here is that this side hatch that we're about to open, the last time it was opened was when this spacecraft was at the launch pad. This side hatch is what is used for initial capsule ingress and final capsule egress, but all comings and goings from the spacecraft while it is on board the space station are from the forward hatch, which is located at the top of the spacecraft under that nose cone. So this is a pretty exciting moment because it will be the crew's first breath of fresh air since boarding their ships at the start of their journeys last year.
Wow.
And the very first person that will
Woo.
have the opportunity to say hello to the crew once that hatch is open is a SpaceX medical recovery personnel representative. Then we'll see procedures take place to remove the footrests of Dragon. That will just help the recovery personnel get a little bit more room to access the crew and help get them out of the spacecraft.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Safety is, once again, top priority here, and removing those footrests from all 4 seats will be helpful as a SpaceX recovery team member will actually go into the capsule, into Dragon Freedom to help the crew members unbuckle and stand up, and essentially we'll also see a fun little slide be put in place to help the crew members exit the spacecraft safely. So yeah, we're gonna remove all 4 of those footrests to basically give a little bit more working room inside the spacecraft.
That's right. And we did hear the go for that hatch opening. So we're just a couple minutes away from being able to see that. And then we might be able to get the chance to see a couple of views inside of the Dragon.
Yeah,
and
let us
the
see.
crew following their splashdown.
Now, opening that side hatch, it's quite like opening, the door to your car. We have to depress the seal around the side hatch, as well. We'll now see them open that side hatch up.
Oh, oh, oh.
And there you have it. The side hatch is open for the first time since September.
Wow.
We can see some of the protective equipment there that was brought into frame that will help protect the edge of the side hatch, one, from any potential damage. Oh, we can see the recovery crew member there taking photos of the side hatch seal. This is part of the standard operation for recovery. Into our procedure.
Wow.
We'll then install that protective frame around the side hatch. This helps to ensure that the side hatch itself, the edges of it, incur no damage while crew members are coming out from the spacecraft. If you missed it, there was also a recovery team member that went inside. So there are now 5 people on board the Dragon spacecraft.
And if you are just joining us, it has not yet even been an hour since Crew 9 splashed down off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. The crew is now on board the recovery vessel Megan, and the hatch is open. The next major milestone that we'll see is when the crew will actually egress or exit the spacecraft. But before that, they'll continue to, the recovery personnel rather, will continue to install that protective area around the hatch and then remove the footrests. So we're a couple minutes away from seeing the crew egress, but not too long away.
I can't wait. This is so amazing.
We'll probably see those footrests being handed out here in the near future, as I mentioned before. Of course, we got to get a well-documented photo of the moment. Although we can't see it from here, I'm pretty sure there are 4 smiles on board right now.
Oh no, I don't want to do that.
From the commander Nick Hague following splashdown, that there were four
I'm sorry, guys. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, capsule
No.
full of grins.
I just wanted to know what that was. Sorry.
Generally speaking,
and there we do see Crew 9, some happy waves, smiles all
Hey,
around
guys.
back on Earth.
Wave to the crew.
generally speaking, we have the individuals in the 2 center seats of the spacecraft exit first. You might hear us refer to this as the exit process as egress. It's just another term for exiting the spacecraft. Generally speaking, we most of the time have the 2 center seats egress first, as it makes moving around inside the capsule a little bit easier.
Okay, they're moving the footstools. I think.
We can see the tablets that were previously located on the upper leg of the crew members. We can see those being handed out
Okay.
to the recovery team. Those
Okay.
were taken off prior to the entry phase, to spacecraft reentry. Those had to be stored and secured prior to dynamic operations.
It looks like we are starting to see the footrests also be removed. I just saw one there on the screen. There are 4, of course, one for each crew member.
Those footrests are made out of carbon fiber and are actually sized appropriately for each crew member, as everybody has different measurements and different leg lengths. Same goes for the armrests and the bucket length of each seat. We size those appropriately for the crew members and to ensure their comfort and safety. I believe we just saw the little ramp that is used to help slide the crew members out from inside the spacecraft.
And once the crew does exit Dragon Freedom, they will be placed on to a structure to go to a medical bay for medical checkouts. This is standard procedure for all Dragon spacecraft flights that splash down crewed, as well as for our Soyuz spacecraft that land in Kazakhstan.
We can see the exterior of Dragon Freedom quite clearly in this shot, and it's such a beautiful sight. I personally prefer the capsule when it has some of that charring from atmospheric reentry. It is the signature sign of a capsule that has returned to Earth.
I wish I could see that like up close, like if I was right there.
Continuing to stand by for our first crew member to egress or exit for Dragon Freedom following their splashdown at 2:57 p.m. Pacific time. Dragon undocked from the International Space Station at 10:05 p.m. Pacific just yesterday, so it was about 17 hours of phasing. And while on board the International Space Station, Crew 9 contributed to 900 hours of science, over 150 research experiments and investigations.
Wow, I can't
Making
wait.
great
I
use
want
of
to know
the microgravity
what they
lab at the
found.
International Space Station, which celebrates 25 years of continuous human presence this November.
What are your research results?
Looks like we're about to get our first crew member here upon egress of the Dragon spacecraft.
So we are standing by for that egress. Outside of Dragon, you do see one of those stretchers. This is the expected procedure as the crew will be taken to medical facilities following their exit from Dragon.
Wow! Wow!
We can
Wow!
see folks on board clapping as our first crew member.
Oh my!
And that is NASA astronaut Nick Hague, commander of
Oh
Crew 9.
man!
Now out of Dragon Freedom. Some smiles, thumbs up, and a wave.
Oh
Can't get any
my
better than that.
God.
That is one happy camper, that's for sure. As we said before, it is standard procedure for all of our long duration crew members to receive assistance upon egressing from the spacecraft. We basically help them move off of the recovery deck and into the private medical quarters for their initial consultation with the SpaceX flight surgeon. So we'll see that take place for all 4 of our crew members today.
And we are standing by for the next crew member to exit Freedom. Next up out of the capsule, we expect Roscosmos cosmonaut Alexander Gorbanov's first space flight. Spent 171 days in space alongside
Woo!
NASA astronaut Nick Hague.
Woo!
Looks like we're getting some cheers and clapping on board as Alexander is slid down the little ramp and placed into the
Wow.
mobility aid.
How big is that in there?
Again, big smile.
Wow. Hey.
Now, the 2 crew members remaining in Dragon are NASA astronauts Sunny Williams and Butch Wilmore. They completed 286 days in space.
One of the remaining footrests being removed from the Dragon spacecraft. As I said before, we generally try to have the crew members that are located in the 2 center seats aboard Dragon, and we like to have them egress first if possible, as it creates a little bit more movable working room inside the spacecraft. There is a recovery crew member inside that is helping all of our Crew 9 crew egress or exit from the spacecraft.
PM Pacific time. Really have the recovery.
I hope that was not
operations
green that
pretty
whole
quick at
time.
this point.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible.
Thought I
to
turned it
think
off.
That, just 5 years ago when we were doing
Done.
the initial demonstration missions
The
of
world.
the Dragon for Crew Dragon, that now we're under
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna be
about
so
30
mad
minutes
if I
for,
got replay this back in the
to
screen.
retrieve the spacecraft from the water, and just several
I
minutes here
am
while
going
it's
to
been
be
on board and to get
pissed.
everyone really to get that side hatch open. For those of you that have just recently joined the Dragon had an on-time splashdown. Oh, looks like we're getting our next crew member here. That is none other than Sunny Williams. Big smile,
Woo!
big waves. She, like her other crew members, now will be assisted onto the mobility
Go on,
aid.
go on. Women's National, what is it? National History Month. Go on, girl. How long did she serve up there? I missed it. You seem
There
to
we
be.
have it.
Oh,
Some waves, some thumbs up, and some
wow.
smiles.
Yay.
Definitely seems to be a theme among all recovery operations.
I'm
Absolutely.
so
And of
glad.
course,
Thank you, Jesus,
That
that all
leaves
of you,
NASA astronaut Butch
at least you're
Wilmore
seeming to come out
inside Dragon,
feeling great.
seat 4.
Seat 4. Is this the last person?
We're getting some views of him now as he egresses or exits the spacecraft.
How big? I just want to go in there. Oh, he's not. Put him on the. Okay. Oh my gosh, I am so proud of y'all. Let me know your research
Once again,
results.
some
You know I'm a history
elation
person.
and cheers there.
Wow,
Butch
congrats.
As we mentioned before,
You're looking
returning
good,
to
looking
Earth
good.
from coming from a microgravity environment can
Looking
wreak havoc
good.
on the body. So
Yes.
it is customary,
Oh
just
my
standard
gosh, I
procedure
know
for
their
all
body
of
is
our
tore.
long-term space
Oh, they have
residents
to get
to
back together.
get assistance once they are back on board the recovery vessel.
Well, now that Nick, Butch, Sunny, and Alexander are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the NASA medical team, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of their return.
Oh wow, that was
The Crew
so
9 mission
good.
began a little differently than usual since Butch Wilmore and Sunny Williams were already aboard the space station when Nick Hague and Alexander Gorbunoff arrived on the Crew 9 spacecraft in September. Having arrived as the crew flight test crew for Starliner, Wilmore and Williams were fully incorporated into the space station's Expedition 72 team and began research and
You can
other
do
work
all this,
aboard the
but we
station
can't find
along with the other
cures
crew members.
for all
Williams
these
commanded the orbiting
diseases
laboratory
such as
for much of
cancer
the
and
expedition. After a successful liftoff and separation
I
from
just wish we
Falcon
could.
9, Nick and Alexander made a short flight on board Dragon to the International Space Station. Veterans of long-duration space station missions, both Williams and Wilmore conducted spacewalks during their 9 months in space. Like all crews on the station, Crew 9 had the ability to leave at any point had there been an emergency. With their full duration mission coming to an end, the crew began packing up their personal items
Almost
for their
a
return
year
to Earth
in
about a
space.
week ago and worked through
It's
tasks
crazy.
and shared lessons learned with Crew 10 teams as they arrived a few days ago.
Their journey home began about 17 hours ago when they closed the forward hatch to Dragon and undocked from the space station at 10:05 p.m. Pacific, 1:05 a.m. Eastern. After 4 successful departure burns and a phasing burn to line up their orbit, Nick, Butch, Sunny, and Alexander rested for a few hours before waking up to prepare for re-entry this morning. We jettisoned Dragon's trunk and performed our final on-orbit maneuver, the approximately 7.5-minute long deorbit burn, and that occurred at 2:11 p.m. Pacific, 5:11 p.m. Eastern Time. And that sent Dragon on its path home. The spacecraft re-entered the Earth's atmosphere and slowed its descent with successful deployments of 2 drogue parachutes and 4 main parachutes, the final splashdown occurring off the coast of Tallahassee, Florida at 2:57 p.m. Pacific, 5:57 p.m. Eastern. Following that successful splashdown, we saw SpaceX recovery experts move in and prepare Dragon Freedom for its lift onto the recovery vessel. And just a little less than an hour following splashdown, we saw Nick, Sunny, Butch, and Alexander make their way out of Dragon and into the recovery ship's medical facilities, safe and sound.
Next up, they'll catch a helicopter flight back to shore, where they'll transfer to aircraft that will take them home. The astronauts will take a NASA plane for the short flight back to Houston, where they'll be reunited with family and friends to bring an end to this mission. It's been an honor and a privilege to share their journey with all of you as we continue this new era in human spaceflight.
Return today marks the end of the direct handover we executed after successfully launching the Crew 10 mission to the space station just last week on Friday, March 14th. Thank you, as always, for joining us for tonight's coverage of the splashdown of Crew 9. Remember to follow SpaceX on X and NASA online and on social media for updates for the very latest on crew and cargo flights to and from the International Space Station.
And we'll continue to share the progress of Nick, Sunny,
Please
Butch,
do.
and Alexander on social media as they travel back
Yes.
home. We do also have a post-splashdown media briefing coming up at approximately 4:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, where leaders share a final update as we conclude this successful mission. So, from all of us at NASA and SpaceX, welcome home, Crew 9. So long.
Welcome home, Crew 9. Welcome home. All right. Wow. All right, guys, I'm going to end it here. And I will probably go live at about 8 o'clock again. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.